gentlemen, here we are for another exciting excerpt of The Scouser and the Scot.
Well, today we have a great little show for you. We are talking to another good friend of ours, John. How are you doing? John from Hard Rock Hell.
I'm not too bad, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Yeah,
very well, thanks. Yeah, keep it as sane as possible is most probably the best way of putting it. Yeah. Padded cells, it feels a little bit like, living in brick walls, but yeah.
My natural habitat, that, so I'm not asked.
It's something about being a Scouser, mate. I'm used to it. Hey, but that's stereotypes. I'm allowed to say that, by the way, before anyone complains. It's a joke. Right, so let's have a laugh. Let's go through these top 10 questions. John, are you ready for your questions?
I think so. Let's see what we've got. Go for it.
Okay, cool. Can you give us a bit of an insight and how you started? How did you get involved in the music industry?
Okay, so I'm a nurse by background. I gave up. I retired after 30 years. So during the last 10 years, I started messing around with DJ apps and putting little mixes together and just hobby stuff, nothing more. I mean, I'm a lifelong lover of music and rock music and various other things anyway. I've always been around music with everything that I've done, always. Even at work when I was nursing, if I was driving, if I was a community nurse, I'd have the radio on or musical CDs or whatever, constantly around music. But I started wanting to do stuff for myself. And about 7 years ago, an American station called Grip of Delusion picked up on a couple of my mixes that I just put out there for friends. And they were like an hour long. They were like space rock, sort of weird, trippy, sort of mellow, psychedelic sort of rock, weird soundscapey type things. And they were popular. They went out on a Sunday morning as a bit of a, I don't like the word chill out, but as a bit of a relaxation sort of Sunday morning, ease your weekend off type thing. And they went down really well. And they got picked up by stoners and people that were into that kind of thing. And it kind of developed from there. And then about 4 years ago, exactly 4 years ago, in fact, Hard Rock Hell Radio was just about to be launched after it had changed from TBFM online. So Hard Rock Hell Radio celebrates its 4th birthday on Monday, this Monday coming, on the 1st of Feb. And they were looking for DJs, and a friend of mine said you should have a word with them. And I dropped them a demo, and they called me back and said, demo's great, but we can't hear you speaking on it. And I had to explain that it's a long, just one great big long mix, different way of doing stuff. And they said, would you do it as a radio show with vocals, and would you, could you expand it? And I'd done some of the sessions before with sort of heavy psych and fuzz and stoner rock and that kind of thing. So I kind of amalgamated the two things together and came up with the Atom Heart with the radio show, and it was really popular. It grew from there. So that's where it started. And then Hard Rock Hell itself would do festivals, which I'm sure you're aware of. And I would go and work at those and DJ at those and interview bands and got amongst that and just got the bug and just got involved with absolutely everything that was going on, and everything developed from there, really.
So is it actually a full-time job that you've got there?
The magnitude of the job I've got now is incredible. I've got 4 record labels, a radio station, a magazine, the media department. I'm booking bands for the festivals. I do absolutely everything. I'm involved in absolutely everything.
That is a pretty busy job.
It's a dream job. Who would want a job like that? That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah, it is what you want to wake up to and go, actually, I'm listening to bands every day. And that's the way you want your day to be, really, isn't it?
It's fantastic. It's not something that I ever thought when I was younger that was achievable or attainable. And over the last 4 years, I've worked hard with the station, and we've done really, really well. And I know we're going to cover some of that in some of the questions you're going to ask me, but we've done really, really well. And I love what I do. It's fantastic. I love working with bands. It's incredible.
That's cool. So when you're talking about, can we drill down into the different specific roles that you have, what each one is, just so you can tell us that one?
So the radio station has 52 DJs now, Hard Rock Hell Radio, and I'm directing the station. So I'm station manager / director, responsible for looking at show content and what we do with individual genre specific shows. because we've got quite a few of those. For those that don't know Hard Rock Hell Radio, we play 70% brand new, unsigned, up and coming artists. We still play the likes of Pink Floyd, and we still play the ZZ Tops, the kind of stuff that people go to maybe Planet Rock or Kerrang for. But we do focus on tomorrow's rising stars. And that's connected to the festivals as well. The lower sort of parts of the bills of the festivals are usually bands that are up and coming, or people don't know so well, giving them an opportunity to, to showcase what they do and get involved with, with the radio station and plug in their tracks, that kind of thing. So the radio station is one part of it. I keep an eye over the mag with Toby. So Toby edits the mag and puts the magazine together. We look at content for that. And we've gone from giving that magazine away at festivals to it's now available in the Midlands in HMV, and we're talking to HMV about it being expanded across towards the north of the country and down towards the south as well. And when lockdown's over and we start moving forward, we'll be doing that. But we're in 8 HMVs in the West Midlands right now, and that's free. People can walk in and pick up a copy. And it's a magazine by fans for fans. It's fantastic. And again, we had Blackstone Cherry on the cover of the last one, but there's bands that, smaller bands that you might not have heard of being interviewed and being reviewed. And it's to showcase them as well. You balance the more established acts with the up and coming, and we're very proud of what we do with that. And the writers are great. And there's plenty of content in there. And it's different. It's not like all the other magazines. It doesn't focus on one linear way of looking at rock and metal. It looks at everything, absolutely everything, which is cool.
Yeah, I get the electronic version. I'm sure I get emailed it. An electronic
100,000 people are getting that electronic digital mag now via issue that they can read on the device for free. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
I love the actual idea of it, to be perfectly honest, John. And it's something special that, everyone misses the days where you used to go get Kerrang, Metal Hammer, and stuff like that because they've just fizzled out, or it's just not as popular. And that, like you say, to put it on your phone, it's there. When you just stopped off, you're reading it and stuff like that. So can you tell us a bit more about the magazine then? How the bands, unsigned bands, get in it?
We get a lot of interest for submission from bands. And if bands are sending us, we get something like maybe 80 to 120 new submissions a week from new bands for the radio station. So we get all their music. We're in touch with them. They're saying, have you got our stuff? And we're saying, yeah. Can we get in on the mag? Can we get reviewed? We get lots of people asking us. So there are genre-specific sort of features on there. I do a thing about the best stoner albums of the month, that kind of thing. There's Fresh Hell with Vicky Ridley, so she focuses on interviewing brand new bands. So we focus on all that stuff. The point I didn't make before, which I should say, is that back in the day, you go to a gig, and you can probably still do it at stadium gigs. You can walk away with a program or a tour program or a book or something. They come to a Hard Rock Hell, they walk away with a magazine. Now, it's not a tour program specifically aimed at that specific festival they've been to, for example, prog or metal or whatever, but it covers everything that we do. And they go back with a souvenir, with interviews and with reviews and with everything else. It's unique, it's different. You don't go to a gig or a festival and come back with their program anymore, or with their variation of a magazine or whatever else. It's cool. It's a nice little keepsake, and people do keep them as well. People are collecting them. They are collector's items.
That's pretty cool. So I think this leads, John, if you...
Yeah. So can you give us some idea?
The next question. Lost you there, John.
Yeah, I lost you there.
The internet went wonky. Yeah, I missed all that, guys. Sorry.
We're saying,
we didn't hear you. We didn't hear the question.
Yeah, you're up to number 4, mate.
Yeah. I thought that. So, can you give us some idea of what the future plans are for HRH as an organisation, mate?
Yeah, it's no surprise to anybody that we're just building on what we've got. So the magazine went from 5,000 issues in print to over 100,000 digitally, plus the 5,000 and HMV. And as I say, we've got plans to expand that so more people can get that for free in their local branches. So that's the magazine. Radio station went from 1 million listeners a year to 2 million listeners a month. We're doing so well at the moment. So we're getting 500,000 people at least a week tuning in. And the figures vary, but it depends on the shows. We don't just have a playlist of bands and that's what we play throughout the course of the day. Every show is handpicked by that specific DJ. So they're genre-specific shows with an autonomous playlist built by those DJs and introduced by those DJs. So if you like, the experts in that particular genre or field are the guys playing you the brand new music from black metal or Vikings or stoner or glam or sleaze or whatever. They're the experts in that particular field, playing your brand new stuff, archive stuff as well. And then, like I say, there are some more shows like the breakfast shows and shows in the morning that play lots of new artists, but they'll throw in some Deep Purple, or they'll throw in a classic Foreigner track, or something by Heart, or whatever else, or Maiden, or whatever. So you get that balance. So you're still getting some familiarity, but you're getting a healthy dose of brand new as well. And yeah, it's good stuff. It works well. The synergy between the two sort of things works quite nicely.
Obviously, going back to one of the things that you mentioned there, Hard Rock Hell, they have a number of different festivals, and they span quite a number of different genres. How long does it take to put one of those festivals on? What's the planning period?
Well, we usually book a year in advance. So for festivals due in November, we start looking around August time, the year before, ready to launch. So people can come to our festivals and then go away knowing what next year's lineup's going to be. So we try and balance it in that way. And we do cover as many genres as we can. And we've got some surprises coming up over the next couple of years with some different kinds of genres, some quite surprising ones as well. We have the Spring Break, which now complements the main festival in November. So Spring Break's around March time. And we've got the New Wave of Classic Metal on there. We've got the Pirate Stage. So that's HRH Pirates and Metal. So we're introducing little stages of these bigger festivals and bringing some bands in to see which ones are there. And if the Pirate Stage, for example, goes really, really well, then we'll consider doing a longer weekend of basically pirate-related metal, in the future. So we'll see how those go and see if the appetite's there for future festivals.
When I see what you're doing, you with all the subgenres. How much does it draw in a different crowd? So the original HRH audience that was coming to the first festivals, are you attracting new blood in with the subgenres, or is it the same, more or less the same crowd that's coming in, John?
Right. So we've got a cohort of faithful that have been going since day one to the main Hard Rock Hell festivals, and we see them at the more rock orientated ones. Hammerfest is more metal oriented, and we see lots of people at the metal side of things. The Doom and Stoner, we see those guys again at Hammerfest, but we see them at metal as well in Birmingham. So the crossover's there. But we have an older crowd that like the prog festivals and the blues festivals, and again they're faithful people. But we look at bringing in brand new artists that have their own fan base as well. So we are bringing in newer audiences to existing festivals. But the punk festival that we did, the first one we did not last year, the year before, 2019, 90% of the people that attended that were brand new customers. They were a brand new crowd. So we know we got the bill correct. We know we pitched it properly, and we got the right bands and the right headliners. And it was a great weekend. It was a fantastic weekend. The Viking weekend, brings in a lot of metalheads, but it brings in a lot of people that just want to celebrate the end of the year. It's every December, so they can have a drink, and they've got that atmosphere going. And that work, people with drinking horns in furs and God knows whatever else, and it's fantastic. But the music's great as well, and that's reflected, in the crowd. Again, people that like sort of folkier metal will be there, as well as people that like the black metal and that kind of thing. So you get that balance. We introduced HRH Goth and Industrial, which unfortunately we've had to postpone until next year. But again, that's a brand new crowd of people. They're customers we never had before. Looking at the goth audience, people that like Fields of Nephilim and My Dying Bride and bands like that we've got coming in. So the newer festivals, they bring in a cohort of people that come to our festivals already, but they also do attract a wider audience of people that want to come because they like the lineup. And we think that we're getting people stick around and come to other festivals afterwards. They're having a good weekend. They like what we do, and they're coming back.
I think. John, how have you actually attracted the younger audience now? And it's something that me and John have discussed in the past on a number of different occurrences. It's like, new blood. Everyone needs new blood in rock and metal, no matter what. Like, you know what I mean? And like, anyone who's under the age of 16 sometimes can't come to these festivals because one, they're too young to attend. Are there any plans, or are there any things that you guys do, like, to try and encourage younger people to come to these festivals?
Well, we have to respect the law and the rules of people being over the age of 18 that come to our festivals.
Yeah.
So we do hope. I mean, we do see younger people or people around the age of 18 that are coming. We do see them there, but that goes back to the radio, and that goes back to feeding in brand new bands that are attracting younger audiences. That are quite hip, and not necessarily what people that are into classic rock and metal like. So everybody that uploads their music, we listen to their tracks. We've got 50 DJs. Every song goes into a central bank. We've got a list of what's coming that day with the genre tags next to it. And we know some of these bands and some we don't. And every DJ is going through and looking at stuff that might appeal to them, and then going back and playing and tagging them and making sure our social media reflects that we've got these new artists on there. They in turn are sharing our posts through their social media, which brings in their audience, which may or may not be young or old, depending on what the band is. So sort of in the general scheme of things, sharing stuff and actually having them on the radio station and then going wider from there, that seems to bring in those audiences. That seems to bring in those crowds.
That's cool. So during the actual festivals themselves, I'm guessing you're always at them. Do you actually get the chance to actually enjoy them, or are you just too busy?
Again, I mean, I don't know whether this is going to sound like a trite answer or not. The short answer is I'm constantly working, so I don't often get a chance to stand and watch an entire set. I have done and do, especially if it's a band that we've brought in, I'm especially fond of. But being around the bands and the setup, and being around the sound check, and being around backstage where they're being interviewed by our DJs, and watching our DJs play live to audiences, get a buzz from that as well. I played in Ibiza between Pearl Handled Revolver and Hawkwind. So I can say I DJed in a club in Ibiza. And I went on before Hawkwind and did an hour-long Space Rock mix. I mean, not many people could say it. I mean, it's fantastic. But then I stopped and stood at the side of the stage and watched Hawkwind. So I got the best of both worlds. But yeah, we don't always get the chance to see the bands that we want to see, but we do make time for it. But we get to see them backstage. We get to hang out with them a little bit and chat with them and interview them and whatever else. And that's good. That's different. That's a cool part of the job.
That is pretty epic. I'd say that you opened up for Hawkwind. I'd be bragging about.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, I'm making it sound far more pompous than it actually was. But the facts are there. It was Ibiza. It was a club. I was on before Hawkwind.
A claim to fame, mate.
So you obviously have big plans for 2020. So obviously 2020 was a bit of a damp squid, write-off, an absolute nightmare for a number of people and everyone involved. Hopefully, once COVID's laid to waste and we're all back to a normal lifestyle, how do you go about, choosing all these bands to play your festivals then?
Most festivals, if not all of them, go to a vote. So they go to a public vote, first of all. So the public who are on the newsletters for example, if we were building a prog festival, then the people that are on our prog list would get an opportunity to vote. We can put that vote on social media too. So, the wider public can if they wish, or people that follow those particular pages. And we pay attention to what the results of those are, first of all. And then again, it goes back to the radio station. If you can couple that with what we've got coming in from those specific genres as well. So we see the new up and coming bands that we're playing on the station, those buzz bands that, the DJs are talking about as well. Some of them show up on those lists, some of them don't. So we get a marriage of the two, and we try and sort of get the best of both of those. We listen to the fans first of all. First and foremost, we go for the people that win the votes, and they're always interesting lists. They never go the way you're expecting them to. And then we look at, for the lower end of the bill, look for bands that are up and coming, that you might see a lot more of next year when the festival's due. And we try and balance that as best we possibly can.
So when you're looking at these specifically new, younger, really grassroots bands, and you're looking at them and you're thinking, you're actually imagining them in a year, 2 years later, I would guess.
Yes. Absolutely.
So what is it you think, if you were giving advice to these young people, what would it be? What would give them a better chance of you guys going, yeah, you're it?
I think the most obvious answer is engage in social media and be active and be visible and let people know that you're still out there, or that you are out there. Let them know when you're recording, when you're writing, when you're in the studio, when you're playing, when you just listen to a Black Sabbath album that you liked. let your audience know you're out there and just engage with them. That's the first part. And the thing that I think works best is that, and I don't say this just for Hard Rock Hell Radio, there's some really great stations out there that other people can go to, but engage with those stations, talk to the DJs there, message them, share their social media when they're playing your music, and let them know that you're responding to what they're doing for you, and develop that relationship. Have a relationship with the people that are trying to help promote you, because that's ultimately what we're doing for the festivals. And that's what we're doing in the magazine. And that's most certainly what we're doing on the radio. We're promoting your band. We're promoting your music and what you're doing right now. So share what we're doing while we share what you're doing, and have that relationship with the people that want to see you thrive and succeed.
It's great information, that, mate. Yeah, cool.
That's quality, that, John. Quick one. That question, this really, but it's one I've got to ask. Obviously, pre-COVID, did you actually go to any normal gigs and you see a band and go, I want them to play Hard Rock Hell?
Yeah. It's quite a common thing. Again, we've got a private staff room for the DJs, and quite often a DJ will say, man, I saw this band last week, you've got to check them out, they'd be great for so and so, or great to get their music on there. So yeah, we definitely do that. We do. And I go to as many gigs as I possibly can. I don't tend to go to arena shows or big shows these days. Again, I'm very fortunate that I know lots of bands now through Hard Rock Hell. So if there's any bands that we've got a relationship with that are passing through town, I'll go see them and then catch support acts with them. And then there's bands that we haven't had on that are wish list bands. And I'll give an example. I would love to get Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats on, one of my favourite bands. I would love to get Earthless on. So, you know, we've got a Doomstoner festival. The opportunity might be there in the future to do that. I stood and watched Elder, who are one of my favourite bands, you know, a couple of years ago, and Monolord at HHDVS, and it was just fantastic. It was just mind blowing. So having the opportunity to do that is great. But there are still bands out there that, when they tour, we've never had them before, but I'll still want to go and see them. I've still got my own favourite bands.
Yeah, I seen Monolord when he supported Black Label Society. They were quality, mate. Really.
They're absolutely stunning. Yeah, it was a great set, that was.
Amazing tone on them, like, you know what I mean? They know what they're doing. It was just a joy to watch, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Sorry, John.
It's all right, mate. One of the things that I would say about what you do is everybody knows who HRH is, so your marketing is spot on. You know, everybody that I know that's in bands wants involvement with HRH. It's a lot of good marketing and a lot of having to raise finances. So if anybody, because obviously all that stuff needs to be paid for. So if you're talking now to somebody that's watching this, that's thinking to themselves, I'd like to put on a festival, you know, I'd like to put on an event. Is there any advice you could give them on how to market well? You know, tricks of the trade, things that's worked particularly well for you guys that they might not think about, John?
I don't know. I mean, I think understanding the market of the audience that you're looking for, you should have some knowledge of the kinds of bands that you want to approach and the kinds of bands, you know, that would be a draw, first of all, because having your mates' bands on is great. You know, if you've got 10 of your mates' bands on and you've only got 15 slots, you know, how do you choose the other 5? You've got to find that balance. I think being unique in who you book is important, and don't always go for the bands that you see at other festivals. But it's difficult to do that. I think you've just got to understand. I think you need to know what your festival's going to be. You need to know who your target audience is going to be. And again, it goes back to using social media and looking at, you know, where the trends are and who's popular. And, you know, in these individual groups, like the New Wave of Classic Rock group on Facebook's a brilliant example. They're right on the ball when it comes to up and coming artists. And, you know, it's about keeping an eye on what's there and not just going for the things that, you know, the bands that you want. You've got to know what your festival's going to be in order to market it. It's not a great answer, but I think it makes sense.
I think to be perfectly honest, John, one of the things that you've said there is the analytics. Now, we've been having a chat with other artists, other people who use analytics, and they use it well. Now, any up and coming band or anyone who's interested in doing this need to understand the analytics. Where would you actually get these figures from? What is the best tools to use to find that information out?
I think you can see, most people can see engagements on public posts on Facebook. So you can see how many people have liked a music video, or how many people have liked a live session, or a particular album cover, or whatever else. And it goes back to, you know, engaging with your audience all the time. The more that you're out there, the more that you're offering people in terms of interaction, the more response you're going to get. So you can see that a band, you know, you might think the album's the best thing you've heard all year, but they've not marketed it particularly well, or they've not really turned up in magazines, or they've not been interviewed, or they've not put themselves out there, you know, for review. And that will be reflected in, you know, in their likes on Facebook, or how people engage with them on, not Mixcloud, excuse me, Instagram, and the stories, you know, the Instagram stories, that kind of thing. So I got asked this recently. Nick Alexander was asking me, and I was talking about TikTok and how I'd missed the boat on that. And somebody showed me TikTok 2 years ago. I know somebody that works in media, and said, I promise you, in 2 years' time, this thing will be massive. And we looked at it, and, you know, we could see what it was all about. And I showed my 13-year-old then, old son, TikTok, and said, what do you make of that? And he went, it's all right. A year down the line, he's 14, and he's saying, do you want to see what I've just seen on TikTok? It's everywhere. So you've got to catch those trends when they're in their infancy, when they're there at the beginning. Some of them take off and some of them don't. I didn't think there was mileage in TikTok. I really didn't. Honestly, I didn't. You know, Instagram I could see develop into what it has, and IGTV and that kind of thing. And I see lots and lots of bands use that, and lots of PR companies use Instagram very, very successfully. You've got to keep an eye on what people are doing and actually what the engagement with those posts are. I mean, 50 likes on a post is great. 500 likes on a post is great if it's quality stuff. But you've got to make sure that, you know, that people, if they ask you a question, you reply. If they post a comment and say that was great, you know, say thank you. Tiny little things like that. These are the things that build up your audience and your brand awareness.
So when HRH approach social media platforms, do you have different approaches for each different one? So is your understanding that like the Facebook crowd is different to the Instagram, is different to TikTok? So do you vary what you do to suit the platform you're on?
Well, the record labels, Off Your Rocker and the three sister labels, the way that we approach that through Off Your Rocker on Facebook is very direct. This is our band. This is their new single. This is what we're doing with them. This is their tour. And it engages with the label fans, but it engages with their fans directly. Whereas the radio station is far more broad. So this is the band. If you like this, and this band, you're going to love these. This is their new video. It's our video of the day. You might not have heard of these, but check out this video because, you know, it could be your favorite song of the moment. You know, you discover your new favorite band, that kind of thing. So it just depends. The festivals themselves, like I said before, the prog audience are a little bit older. So they tend to look at, you know, some of the older videos of prog sort of stuff, and the documentary that's up on Amazon Prime that we made, that kind of thing. They'll look at that. So I guess there is some understanding of what your audience will be, or what your audience is. But I think so long as you're sharing something that's interesting, where the theme is common, where it's related to, you know, whatever it is, radio or a specific festival, so long as it's relatable and you're giving something out there. It doesn't matter if people look at it and go, you know what, that weren't for me. I like the video, it was all right, but that ain't for me. But sometimes you get people go, bloody hell, I've never, that's wow. You know, and that's what you want, you know, and that's good advertising for bands. That's good PR for bands as well. And it's free. And that's the other thing to point out as well on Hard Rock Hell Radio and most of the radio stations. We don't charge for airplay. We want to play your music. We want to put you out there. We want people to hear you on our station and go, should have heard what I just heard on Hard Rock Hell Radio. It's good for us. You mentioned our station. It's great for the bands as well. That's our job, to promote. And it's, you know, we do it for free. We don't charge for people to be in the magazines either. It's free. It's promotion. Use it.
So if bands are looking at this who have never sent in to HRH before, what's the minimum that you're looking for? You know, like things like, do you need it in MP3 and WAV file? Do you need the cover? Yeah. Well, can you run through that, please?
Always MP3, and you can go onto Hard Rock Hell Radio's webpage or the Facebook page, and there's a link for uploading. So you upload your music. We don't tend to play bedroom recordings, and there are certain genres of music Not that I'm saying that hip hop and rap are bad, but we don't tend to play that stuff on the station unless there's crossover. So those sort of genres of music don't go on there. But country rock will, southern rock will, folk rock, medieval sounds, anything that's outside of the box as well. We will give it a go. We will listen to it, but it's got to be a good quality recording to be broadcast on the radio in the first place, and an MP3. And if you tag it and tell us what your tags are, who you're aiming for, what DJs you think will like, or what specific genres you think it fits in, then it'll find its way to the right DJs. You'll get played.
Well, I think that sums it up really nicely, to be honest, John. I think you've answered all our questions as well. So we've got one more question.
Yep.
As always, on the Scouts from the Scope, we like to help you guys as much as we can. Can you give us your links? If anyone's interested in contacting yourself and actually getting their music played on Hard Rock Hell, or even trying to apply to actually play Hard Rock Hell, how do we do it? How do we get in touch with you, John?
The easiest way to do it is to go through the Facebook page. And you've been calling me John, which is my real name all the way through the interview, but you can see it comes up as Jeff Leopard. Find me on Facebook and drop me a message and say I'm interested in getting my music on there, and I'll help. Spoke to a band from the Black Country 2 nights ago for an hour because they wanted advice on how they can get themselves out there a little wider, what they're doing wrong, that kind of thing. It's free advice. If anybody wants to ask me, my opinion on something music-wise or where they can be played or whatever else, engage with me. I love it. I think it's fantastic. That's what we want to do. So Facebook is your first port of call. Go to the Facebook page for Hard Rock Hell Radio and find out how to get your music up there. Locate me. Speak to the DJs. We post every day to show what shows are on and who they are. The names are on there. They're usually tagged. Engage with one of the DJs, like Red Tank for punk, if you're a punk band, and ask Red Tank if you'll give your track a listen or even a play. Because it's great. It's what we do. It's what we want.
You know what? We couldn't ask for more than that. John, what I'll do, I will put all the links down below. So guys who are watching this, who are really interested in getting in touch with John or Jeff Leopard, by the way, I just love that. It's had me and him in stitches. So what I do think is what I'll put all the links down below, guys. So click on the links, get in touch with John, Jeff, and then fire questions out. Don't be afraid to approach these guys. These guys are here to help you. So that's what we want to see. And John, thank you very much. Before we go, one last thing. Happy birthday for tomorrow, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much.
No worries, John. It's over to you, mate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, there we are. Right.
Thank you, guys. It was an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure was all ours, bro. So you know what to do then. To the next Scouts on the Scot, hit that cowbell and subscribe.